Thank you. For those of y'all who don't know me, I'm Steve Henderson. I'm a member of the reconciliation team. And over the last few months, we've been wanting to have a series of informational talks, presentations about people in Lubbock. And today we're having a presentation, a panel discussion on living on the edge of Lubbock. The reason I'm particularly interested in this is because I used to be the director of adult probation here in Lubbock. And
hello, we can't hear you.
you can't hear me. Okay. You tell me. Okay, is this better? Okay. You know, I used to be the director of adult probation here in Lubbock, and in the process of what we were doing, we started a drug court, and I got to know several members in drug court, and one of them in particular I got to know, and after I retired, we stayed in touch, and we've continued to stay in touch, and I've helped her out a bit from time to time, and what floored me was that how things that for you and I, things that really don't present more than a blip in our schedule or a blip in our lives, become a major problem for people like my friend. And so that encouraged me to, or generated thought in me, we need to have something so people can understand what people living on the edge have to go through just to get by from day to day. And so we've asked these panelists to come forward. We have a bonus person who I think is coming. Jim Smith had invited somebody, and he sent me an email about it, but he was in South America at the time. And we think either ICE or somebody interrupted the email and took it away and deported it or something. We're not sure. But anyway, let me introduce the people that we have on the panel. First of all, we have Christy Reeves, who's the executive director of Habitat for Humanity. It's been here since 1987. Of course, people know about Habitat. It's a nationwide organization, bolstered a lot by Jimmy Carter. And they provide affordable, decent housing for people. And it's, you know, it's well known and a great organization. Lynette Wilson, one of our own from who works at St. Benedict's. St. Benedict's, as you may know, provides nutritious meals to people who are on the street, and they do it with a sense of love and care for each individual. And they make sure that's part of what they do. We also have Jaimie Wheeler of Open Door. Many of you were here Thursday at noon. Chad, her husband, was here. And together, they have helped provide survivor housing, housing for people on the street, but it's more than just housing. It's a deep concern and care to make people feel like they're part of a community. So they not only just live, but they thrive. And we also have Lisa Gilliland of Meals on Wheels. My wife does a little bit for Meals on Wheels herself, but Meals on Wheels, again, a national organization that provides nutritious meals for people who don't get that. People who are homebound, elderly, incapacitated. And again, they provide more than just a meal. The volunteers provide a sense of belonging, a sense of care, a sense of warmth. And if she's able to be here, Cynthia Quintanilla from Catholic Family Services will also be here. Again, I apologize that we didn't get her name out, but we'll blame ICE or somebody on that. So, without further ado, may we have the panelists come up here. What we've asked them to do is provide a little bit of information about the clients that they serve, the things that they do, the challenges that their clients face, and how we as individuals and as churches can be involved in helping them.
I have one right here.
Okay, got it.
I could juggle them.
Right? That'd be impressive.
Jaimie, would you care to start?
Sure.
just sharing. Is it on? Okay. It doesn't sound like it from here, but just sharing a little bit more about what we do. And so, yeah, I work with Open Door. We used to be called Carpenter's Church. Some of you guys we've known quite a long time. And we really started very organically just as community. And from that, kind of what happens like you do with any of your friends. You know, if you notice, you're in a group of friends that a need comes up or something like that, you just feel that in community. And so what happened with our community is we saw that, for me, I was in housing, and so it was hard to go home at night to my own home when my friends were still sleeping outside on the streets. And so we started opening up our community center during the day. It's the same place that we meet for church where we were this morning because we wanted people to feel really comfortable in the space. A lot of our friends felt really intimidated by some of the bigger churches on Broadway. Wonderful people, but they were just in a really hard time in their life, and so they felt like maybe they didn't have nicer clothes or didn't understand the culture of the community. And so we wanted to make a space that it was just a normal space people go to every day. So people come in and take showers and connect in those different ways. Some people get their mail there so that they can get an ID and be able to work and things like that. And so we, like I mentioned, we have church in the same place that we have the community center. So for people, it just feels like it's the same kind of home space that they're in every day that's comfortable to them. And then we have two different housing programs. So we have what's called permanent supportive housing. We have about, I think, 86 or 87 people in that housing tonight. And that really is geared towards people experiencing chronic homelessness. So kind of ongoing homelessness, not just situational homelessness. So emergency shelters like Salvation Army and Grace Campus and Family Promise and some other really great ones in Lubbock. They're really great if you're experiencing situational homelessness. So maybe, things are going pretty good for you, but you experience a house fire or you lose a job, but maybe you have some other supports in your life. And so you need kind of that short-term support to get you going again. But our group really mainly works with people who have been experiencing homelessness for multiple years. Some people in our program were experiencing homelessness for 25 years. So if you can imagine, one of my friends would always say, if you didn't have a mental health disorder when you came out on the streets, you have one being on the streets because of the constant stress that you're in and the trauma that you're in, just trying to survive every day. And so because of that, this housing program is really about meeting people where they are. So it's a housing first approach where we get people into housing and then kind of work on that building safety and stability from there, instead of requiring for someone, for example, to have immediate sobriety or to meet a lot of rules, just because usually people, when you've been in survival mode for that long, it's hard just to meet some of those basic things. And so that allows us to get them in and help them become safe, start to stabilize. And then from there, we partner with a lot of these guys, actually everybody here, we partner with at different times, to help find those other resources and supports while people really start to heal and be able to kind of move forward on their own. And then lastly, we have the survivor housing program. And so we work with survivors of trafficking and their children. And that is a shorter term program. It's about, most people stay with us about 24 months, which doesn't sound that short term, but whenever you consider the kind of years of trauma that someone has experienced, that time always feels too short to us. So it's kind of just enough to get people hopefully in a place where they're stabilizing, getting into counseling. Their children are there, and so we're also supporting them, getting them connected to resources and educational options, just things that are going to actually help provide them to go forward in a future. And so that's a little bit of what we do downtown. And like I said, I think a lot of you guys have come down to see us. And we can't do anything that we do without each other. And so, we provide what we do, these guys provide what they do, and kind of together as a community, we're all able to support people whenever they're having a hard time, wherever that hard time has come from.
I guess it's my turn. Okay. I'm Lisa Gilliland. I'm the Executive Director of Lubbock Meals on Wheels. You gave a great description, except that we're not national. All Meals on Wheels operate independently and function very differently. Your Lubbock Meals on Wheels is not government funded. That's very unusual for a Meals on Wheels program. The majority of the programs are funded through the government. So here recently, when you hear all the different things going on, that does not impact us at all. We rely completely on support from the community. We're not a United Way agency. We are completely locally funded. We do have our own kitchen on site. That's also a little bit unusual. Some programs partner with a hospital or a school. We have our own commercial kitchen, so we prepare the meals there on site. Right now, we have about 1,100 clients. So talking about the living on the edge part, over the past, I would say, I used to say 18 months, I can probably say 2 years now, we've seen our numbers increase. You all have been to the grocery store. You see what food prices are doing and have done over the past couple years. For us, there's a direct correlation with the clients we serve. Many of them are obviously homebound. They're not able to prepare a nutritious meal for themselves. Due to some physical or mental, disability, and they don't have anyone to prepare that lunchtime meal for them. Well, so many of them may have been able to go to the store and get kind of a ready meal or something easy. Well, you've seen the prices of those double. Maybe their family members cook some extra food for grandma or whoever. Well, it's all they can do to feed their immediate family, much less than help their extended family. So we have seen our numbers increase over the past 2 years quite dramatically. So now that we have about 1,100 clients, we started a breakfast program in 2023. There's 850 of those clients also receiving breakfast. And then we do what's called a weekend meal for clients that have no access or assistance with food over the weekend. On Thursday, they'll get a sack that has a frozen meal and some easy prep items to get them through the weekend. We've seen that number climb to 650. So the number of meals has just really, really expanded. In 2024, we made and delivered 400,000 meals just right here in Lubbock. So that's a lot of need in our community. You'll also notice Lubbock's growing. People are living longer. That's exactly our clientele. The majority of our clients are seniors. There are some that aren't. There is not an age requirement to be on Meals on Wheels. It is that you are pretty much homebound, not have anyone to prepare that meal for you, and not be able to prepare a nutritious meal for yourself. You could be 30 years old and maybe you had a head injury. Maybe you have MS. So we do have some younger clients on the program. Those of you that I know have delivered have seen that. And that's fine, but you have to remember those clients are going to be on the program for a long time. So we're not going to have the attrition with those clients as we are with someone who's maybe 85 or 90 and on the program. So that also impacts the number of clients that we have. And we're seeing a lot more chronic long-term conditions. People that are younger, that are severe diabetics are going to be on the program a long time. Some people are just temporary, maybe a knee replacement or a hip replacement. We might only be serving them for 6 or 8 weeks, but the majority of our clients are going to be on the program for quite a while. And yes, the meal's important. You hit on that, but the other aspect of the volunteer, going by and seeing them. For many of our clients, the volunteer is the only person they're going to see that day. So yes, that meal is important for their nutrition and their health, but so is that daily human contact. For many of the clients, it becomes quite a relationship with their volunteer. They'll call in and say, "Where's Lynette? She's always here on Wednesday. We haven't seen her in 3 weeks." And then she's just on vacation. Just as much so as the volunteer coming in, concerned about a client. Our volunteers do go through a training and a background check, of course, because we're sending them into people's homes. But they become part of their family. They bring their grandkids to deliver in the summer, or they get to know the clients. And that relationship and that daily human contact is equally important as that nutritious meal. They're going to come back and say, "Gosh, she doesn't seem okay today. Maybe her medication's not right, or maybe her wheelchair ramp's broken and she needs help with that, or maybe the house smells like gas and we need to call somebody." So having our volunteers be the eyes and ears and going into those homes is critical. Right now we have 1,700 volunteers. That seems like a lot, but when we're sending out 77 routes every day, it's not that many people. So we always need volunteers. I think the other thing that's important to know is you can go as often or as little as you're able to volunteer. Some people do the same route every week. They are Route 7 on Thursday, and if I see them any other day of the week, I'm confused as to why they're there. Other people just call when they're available and they just substitute. Some people I might only see once a month. So it's very flexible as far as the schedule. A lot of people that retire are like, oh, I'm going to travel. Well, you can do that too. You just, when you're in town, come by and deliver. Takes about an hour to deliver. We try and keep the routes as compact as possible because you are using your own vehicle, your own gas, and your own time. Plus, we want to keep the meals, at a safe temperature. So the other good part about not being government funded is when we decide to start a breakfast program, we decide to start a breakfast program. When we decided we needed to serve the community of Wolfforth starting in 2019, we started doing that. So we serve about 25 people a day in that community as well. We have a large pet program. We feed 575 dogs and cats every other week. Obviously, our clients can't get out and get food for themselves. It's very difficult for them to get food for that companion animal, and we know what kind of lifeline that animal provides for them. So we also do veterinary care and boarding. We have clients that won't go into the hospital and get a medical situation treated because they have no one to care for that animal. So we have boarded pets. We have a large veterinary program where we do spays and neuters and vaccinations and wellness and flea and tick and all of the things. It makes it safer for our volunteers going into the home, and it helps keep that animal happy and healthy with that client as long as possible. We send out fresh flowers on Fridays. We do birthday cakes. There's a lot of extras that go with our program that make it a lot more than a meal. And like she was saying, all of us try and partner together. Anytime we have extras, we try and share, and everybody does that. Lubbock is very, very philanthropic. We're so lucky to live in the community that we live in. At one time, they said we had over 1,500 nonprofits. I don't know what that count is now, but that's a lot for a community to support, but it is remarkable how we all know to step up and take care of our neighbors without anyone really having to tell us to do that. So for those of you that have volunteered, thank you. We'll take you back anytime. Our volunteer coordinator would get on to me if I didn't do a plug for volunteering. And like I said, it only takes about an hour, and it'll be the best hour you spend all week. Yes, ma'am.
Just as an addition, Secret Santa.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. We do a program called Senior Secret Santa where our clients submit their wishes for Christmas. And of course, there's limits, like a $40 limit. This past December, we sent out 845 Christmas gifts. All of the clients that asked for things got adopted by people in the community. Our office turns into Santa's workshop. There is not a space to walk in there. Don't let the fire marshal come in during December. And then we have a special afternoon delivery where we send out those gifts. And again, there's so many things for kids at Christmas, and that's fantastic, but it is one of the only projects for seniors at Christmas. And so many people step up and say, I don't have my own parents or grandparents to buy for anymore. I want to adopt somebody. So it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And we're all very happy once all the gifts are gone out of our office. We have groups that come in and gift bag them for us because, even seniors want something to open. And they ask for simple things. It's usually house shoes, a robe, pajamas. We had one man one time ask for a cowboy hat, and it was beyond the limit of the $40, but somebody got it for him, and he passed away about 2 weeks after Christmas, and he was buried in that cowboy hat. So don't think that those gifts aren't important to those people. Things like you were saying that we all take for granted. I have people ask for Kleenex and candy bars as their Christmas wish. So a lot of things that we take for granted that seem very simple are very important to our neighbors that are homebound and alone and maybe don't have any family nearby. So thank you. I tried to block it out. I don't have to think about it. We don't start planning it till July. You talk about Christmas in July, that's when it starts planning for December.
Wow, I love these programs, but this is even better than I thought. Well, I'm Christy Reeves. I know a lot of you because this church has always been such a supporter of Lubbock Habitat for Humanity. And we are part of Habitat International, but kind of like she said, we also operate as the Lubbock affiliate. And we are pretty independent too. We send a tithe to the mothership, and they use it for great things like disaster relief, global builds. It's like another type of ministry program, which is, it's all connected to housing. But if you get something in the mail just from Habitat, unless I wrote this one letter I mail out every year, then with my name on it, that's from me, then the money will go to Habitat International. So it's a little confusing. But for Lubbock Habitat, we raise all the money locally. We have a local board of directors. I answer to the chairperson. And then the homeowners have to live in Lubbock, and we build houses just in Lubbock. So if Plainview wanted to do Habitat, they have to start a Habitat in Plainview. And so it's very local too, and we have our own bylaws, and we can do, a lot more. That way there's Habitat Texas, but they basically are there to support the affiliates. Like we would pay to go to the conference they put on and learn, or we would pay them to service the mortgages, or anything that they offer. It really helps us not to have to pay a staff person sometimes, as they can provide more services, but we don't answer to them or anything like that. So it's cool because we have that big name and support, and everyone knows us. Like he said, Jimmy Carter was just a huge supporter, and when he died, he was still helping us from above, because I got to do local interviews and ask for money. So he helped me out. But anyway, but it's so nice to have that. But we also get to do our own thing, like she said. So when we see a need, we can fill a need and operate pretty independently. And what we do is affordable housing, like Steve said, and we are a nonprofit Christian-based ministry. We're ecumenical. Everyone's like, what does that mean? It's all faiths. But of course, people of no faith can work with Habitat too. We just love everybody. We try to be neutral. We're purple. We love everybody because we need money and help from everybody. So basically, we fill a need of housing and security. So every once in a while, someone will apply for our program that's living in a car or something. But primarily, unlike Open Door and others that help homelessness, which is such a huge problem in Lubbock, and we see it all the time, and we get calls all the time about it, and I have often wanted to try to take people home with me and things like that, because there's just such a need. But we serve more people experiencing housing and security. So they don't have a stable place to live, and they have to move around. They have people that they rent from who aren't necessarily good to them. They don't live in good places, and yet they're paying more money than they can even afford. And most of our Habitat homeowners are single moms, and they might have up to 4 children. But we also have some single dads, and we have single individuals, because it's very expensive to try to own a home as a single person. And if you're serving a nonprofit or a church or something like that, filling a really good need, but you're single and you want to own a home, we can be a great opportunity. We have veterans. Anybody can apply for our houses. What we do is base the selection, which is done by volunteers, a volunteer committee, on a need. And so we have an affordable housing workshop. We'll plan one of those for probably June. We're planning it right now. And anybody can come. And we get the most recent Lubbock County Affordable Housing Guidelines and income levels. And we use that to give all that information to people who come. And then they get the application. They can see if they qualify, and then they learn how to fill it out. And if they bring the application back, our Habitat Texas helps us review those and see if they're going to kind of qualify. And then that goes, those go to the committee, and they do interviews and home visits. And then they'll select them, the board approves them, and then they go into our partnership program. They have to do 150 hours of education classes. And that's our local number. It used to be 250. And we had to reduce it because it was so hard for single moms they work like 70 hours a week. They do have to have an income too, even if it's disability, have to have an income. So if they lose a job in the program, I've got to get them another job, which I do. Anyway, and then they do learn about financial literacy. And I think that is one of the greatest things we offer in addition to the home, because it is unbelievable how many people, like Steve said, we just don't understand and take for granted what we just know. Or what I just thought I knew. I've learned a lot going to our classes, actually, but you just think people know about a budget, or they know about this or that, and they just don't. Most of our homeowners have never had a role model that showed them any of this, and they're the first ones in their family to ever try to do something like this, and it's a big thing. And so just what they learn about managing their money and getting out of debt and staying on a budget, and about insurance and escrows and mortgages and appraisals, it's just wonderful, because they have to be fully prepared to pay their no interest. That's the best part, which is hard for us to maintain. No interest affordable mortgage. And that mortgage is based on their income, not the cost of the house. So I basically have to raise all the money to front the construction. And just because volunteers do most of the labor, we still have to buy lumber and materials. And we do use licensed professional subcontractors, because it's a real house, and they're going to pay this mortgage, and that is a huge thing. And they need a house where the sheetrock stays up, and things like that. It's a house. There's great houses. We want a decent place for them to live. That's our vision. So we try to build good houses, and so we do that. And speaking of building, they have to help with construction. They have to do 100 hours of construction on their house or another Habitat house, so they learn how to take care of their house. Because as a single mom, they're going to have to pay this affordable mortgage, and they're also going to have to live. And like she talked about, groceries may be hard for me when I go to United, but it is twice as hard for these poor single moms with 4 kids, and that the rising cost of everything really affects them, and transportation and all of that, childcare if they need it to work, and so they don't have money for repairs. What if they can learn to do it themselves? And that's cool anyway. Our project manager's a girl, Brittany Morgan. She's a framer. I got her when she was 23. She framed for her dad in Amarillo, and God sent her to Lubbock to make her own way. And now she's 29, and I have kept her. That's where we spend our money, to keep Brittany Morgan. No, and we even got her a sidekick named Tyler. He's my son-in-law. But anyway, it's so cool. And there are only 2 paid staff. Everybody else is a volunteer or a homeowner that helps, but which is so cool. I'm sure all of you have helped build a Habitat house. But I do think that it's so important for Brittany and Tyler to teach them everything they can. Then we do a walkthrough, and then we close on the house. And they have to point it out, just like you're buying a house, on the walkthrough if they need something then. Because then they do not just call Brittany and Tyler to fix it, they're a homeowner. But they closed on the house, and they're paying us their no interest affordable mortgage, so they have to call and get those things fixed. Okay, so Brittany and Tyler are really nice, and I know they do a lot of things without telling me on their time, and they help them all they can. But if they know how to change filters and how to do this and that, it's empowering, it's cool, and it saves them a fortune. So those are the requirements. And then when all that's done, we close on the house. We try to time the completion of the house with the program, getting their hours, because we do not want to have houses sit empty. We have had so much vandalism. It's all over Lubbock at every job site. We just can't afford the security measures other for-profit construction companies can. So it's a huge problem. And we lose thousands of dollars in replacing things, and it's an ongoing problem. And so we really try to time it where we're closing. We have the house finished right when we close, then they move in, then we do a home dedication ceremony, which is amazing. Then they pay us their no interest affordable mortgage. They could bring it to our local restore where our offices are, or they can pay online, they can pay by card, they can pay, to Habitat Texas, and they do service of mortgages. That just happened. The lady did it locally until she retired at the end of February. So we've started letting them do it. But anyway, that's how it works, and it's a 30-year relationship. Or they can pay off their house sooner if they have a way to experience upward mobility, which we love. And many people who get in the houses, that's when their life completely changes. They have security and stability for the first time. They go back to school, or they go to school, or they can pursue career development. Their kids are totally different. And this is a neighborhood. So our Habitat neighborhoods are very cool and very unique. A lot of diversity. We really love that word. We're not scared to say it. And it's all kinds of people. but they have this common bond, and they support each other, and the kids can play in the street together, and it's so cool. And then at first, they have to also learn how to be a good neighbor. We have had a few street fights in the beginning, but then they get better, and it's kind of fun. And that's just part of the ministry, too, is teaching them how to live with other people, be a good homeowner. They do have to do their own landscaping. We're trying to find ways to kind of help make that more affordable. But we're building a subdivision in East Lubbock. We have been blessed. We have land, and we have the infrastructure completed. We have some other land being donated. Many habitats have no land. It's a huge problem. They're doing advocacy in Austin. They were just doing it last week. I was harassing poor Carl Tepper and Charles Perry, my friends. They get harassed by me to help to try to get land for other habitats because it's so hard. But we have land in West Texas, and we have tons of volunteers, and we have great staff. We just need money. And the cost of construction has more than doubled. It's like doubled since COVID. COVID was so scary, but we got blessed, everything, we were blessed, and then, wow, it really hit, and everything went up, and it's not going to go back down, and that's really hard. Like she said, we have to build these houses. We have to pass inspections. It's a real house, and it's really hard. So we do everything we can think of now to raise money. I just went on TV. We're just cash for construction. Just give me money this week in April. It's my own Giving Tuesday. For a week. Everything, blitz builds and foundations, and churches give me money, and grants, and events, and galas, and rock benefit concerts. I mean, anything we can think of that I have time to do with my small staff. And the biggest thing is we operate that Habitat Restore. We had our first market yesterday, the Thrift and Thrive. We had 12 vendors. We're trying to get the young ones. So we felt very trendy with our food truck, and it was a big success. And so, it's just expensive, our mission. And we have about 8 houses under construction right now. And I have like 20 pages full of people that want to come to the workshop. We'll have hundreds that want these houses. I already have homeowners getting ready for those houses. And I need money to finish because the cost keeps going up under construction. We're about to start 2 more with a city grant. Thank goodness. We had 2 grants put on hold by all this federal government stuff, but we still get 1. And then we have some LISD houses. They build our houses at the Byron Martin Center, but I have to come up with all the money. But they're about to move the houses out, and we'll finish the rest, and we have 2 there. So there was 1 house going a year when I came 6 years ago, so this is good. It's just hard because the need is bigger than we could ever serve. So, and we have people calling, I need repairs, I need a roof. There's a scam going around that we are doing free roofs for seniors. That is not us. They got our logo, they put it on social media. That is not us. So sad. So anyway, I could go on, but that's Habitat. It's a Christian-based ministry, and it was started in the South in the 70s to promote racial equality. So there's that idea. Our mission is seeking to put God's love into action. We bring people together to build communities, houses, and hope. And I think the houses are important, but building communities where all kinds of people come together to build houses for people, and all kinds of people live in these neighborhoods. That was the idea about Habitat. And then the hope that gives everybody who is blessed to be a Habitat homeowner, because they see people like y'all coming together to just do something nice. And they're so skeptical at first. Why would they do that? Why'd they give it their time and their money for me? No one's ever done that for them. So that's transformative love, and that is God working through our volunteers to show, yes, there is this side to humanity where people love you and will help you, and that's what changes them the most, even more than the house.
I'm Lynette Wilson with I started to say Family Outreach. I used to be with Family Outreach with St. Benedict's. I'm the executive director. Is this on?
Yes. Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Many of you here already know all about St. Benedict's, and several of you here are volunteers, which we greatly appreciate and totally depend upon our volunteers to carry out our mission. Did you know that 1 in every 5.1 families in Lubbock live in poverty? 1 out of every 3 children go to bed hungry every night. St. Benedict's mission is to feed the homeless and the food insecure in Lubbock and the surrounding area. We feed approximately 500 to 600 meals every day. We have seen such an increase since the pandemic. As many of you know, we used to serve inside, and that was a wonderful opportunity to get to know our friends that come, but after pandemic, we could no longer serve, or during pandemic, we could no longer serve inside, so we plate our food now to go, and our friends come up to the door and get their meal. Some of them stay there and eat their meal. We have a garage that's air-conditioned and heated, and our backyard we have picnic tables. So some of our friends will stay there, but many of our friends take their meals to go. We are serving so many more families than we ever have. We have one family that has 15 living in the household. Most are children, and they come every day and get their meal and take it home. We have a lot of families that live in our neighborhood and with many children. And it's such a rewarding mission to be able to know that these children, these folks, are not going to go to bed hungry because of St. Benedict's. We receive our food every day from different volunteers, Second Baptist being one of our volunteer teams that come. We have different churches that provide meals, and we are supported by several different churches in the Lubbock community. They bring in the meals, and then they plate the meals, and we serve them to-go style. They stay and help us. They bag up chips. They bag up sandwiches. They also help us with whatever needs to be done to accomplish this mission. We are so thankful that we have such a wonderful support of the Lubbock community. They are so loving and caring, and we are so blessed to receive additional meals. Most of our volunteer teams can serve about 200 to 250 meals or provide those meals. And since we're serving sometimes 500 and 600 meals, we have to prepare the additional amount. We make up about 300 sandwiches every day, so if we run out of hot meals, then we are able to provide them with a sandwich. And our friends know if they get there early, they get the hot meals. So in about 15 to 20 minutes, we've given out about 350 meals of the hot meals. And then the ones that come later, they do receive a sandwich. We not only feed the body, but we feed the soul. We love our friends. We listen to them. Some of them want to visit with us, want to talk to us about their situation. We do a lot of referrals and try to help them find the resources in Lubbock that are available. We have a chaplain, and he is amazing. We have Bible study every other Saturday, and he leads that. And then every Sunday morning we have chapel and serve breakfast burritos. So we serve Monday through Saturday every night from 5 to 6, and then Sunday morning from 9 to 9:30. We don't usually have too many people come on Sunday morning, but it's growing. Our entire program is growing. We have seen, we've tripled what we were serving before COVID. I know many of you that volunteered many years ago when we were down on Broadway. I think they served maybe 80 or 90 meals, and now today we're serving, like last night we served 650 meals, and on a Saturday that is a lot of meals. It's just such a blessing, though, to be able to know that these folks are able to have a meal, and we're growing because as we talked a while ago, the economy in Lubbock is it's hard. Going to the grocery store, feeding a family of 5 and 6 and 7, it's really difficult. And their food stamps, many of them have been cut. So, and then the cost of groceries going up, their food stamps just does not cover what they need for food. So it's just a wonderful mission that we have, and we could not do it without our support of the community and our wonderful volunteers. We are not a government agency. We write grants. We receive donations from churches, from the Lubbock community. We're one of the charities that receives proceeds from bingo. I don't know if y'all know that all money from bingo has to go back to a charity. And we are blessed to be one of them because it has certainly been very helpful to accomplish our mission. We, like I said a while ago, we not just feed the body, but we do feed the soul because so many of our friends, being homeless, so many of them are lonely, and they will tell us, we come here not just for the meal, but because somebody asked us how we are. How are you today? He said, most people look down on us, and when we go in stores, we know we're dirty, but people won't speak to us. They shy away from us. But here, you welcome us, you hug us, you listen to us, and you care about us. And it's such a blessing to be able to do this. And I just appreciate all of the support of Second Baptist that's given us all these years. This mission started in 2007 by an Episcopalian priest and his wife. They started serving sandwiches down on Broadway, and as a result of that, they moved into a little place on Main Street, and then they moved to Broadway. And I think Second Baptist has been involved since those days, and they prepared a lot of the meals. They prepared all the meals themselves and took it down to Broadway to serve. So we always accept donations of food, money, but I always tell people, if you're ever at an event and people say, oh, we've got all this leftover food, I don't know what to do with it, I know where you can put that food to good use. We always need extra food because we have to prepare, and we're so blessed to be able to receive donations from different individuals, different businesses, restaurants in Lubbock. They are beginning to realize who we are and what we are doing to help the food insecure in our community and make sure that no one goes to bed hungry. Are there any questions? Yes?
Are there regulations on the leftovers that are donated?
No. We are not licensed by the city of Lubbock. We are licensed to warm things up, heat things up. We do not actually cook there. We can boil water, we make spaghetti, but when we receive donations, of course, we have to keep it at a certain temperature, a certain cold temperature, but no, there's no restrictions. Normally, if we receive food, we serve it almost that day or the next day. Yes.
So who do you receive, like these hot meals? You don't prepare it on site. Is that what you're saying?
No, we do not prepare the hot. The teams that bring our food, like every Thursday is the food bank. They provide food, so they bring it, and Hugh Anderson and David Pinson pick it up at the food bank for us and bring it to us, and then we put it immediately in warmers. But most of our teams prepare the food in their homes. We have different. Some of them order it from Market Street, but a lot of them they just each member of their team will prepare like 3 pans of spaghetti, and so we had, we'll bring it hot and then we put it in warmers. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So it sounds like it's well organized per day.
Yeah.
That you actually have it assigned. I know in the past, that sometimes we get notice that in Sunday school or whatever that said Benedict needs, food or volunteers. But it's pretty well calendared.
Yes, ma'am. We set our calendar every first of every year, and we're sponsored by several churches. Like Monday night is Holy Spirit Catholic Church. Tuesday night's First Christian, and they all have different teams. And then Wednesday night is Monterey Church of Christ, and Thursday is the food bank, And then Friday is First Baptist Church and Lubbock National Bank and St. Paul's Episcopal Church. And Saturday is St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. And Sunday morning is I think that St. Paul's, and there's St. Elizabeth's. So, yeah, and they have a team leader, and they set their own schedule, you know, who serves on what night. So, yeah, and every Thursday morning, I come here and I pick up leftovers from your Wednesday night dinner. So I always tell everybody I know that goes, don't eat a lot. Don't eat too much. Eat enough, but not too much.
We do the Blitz Build every September, and we get all the food donated. I have a great committee, and restaurants will do it, and I always estimate high, because you never know how many volunteers, but we have done it with y'all. We'll do y'all this year. I'll just say it right now, and we always set it up with someone who feeds the homeless or that needs the food, and we'll just call them when we're through with the lunch or breakfast and say, do you need food? And they'll say yes, and they'll usually come get it. And we'll be able to provide, you know, extra food. So, and it's always needed. There are many groups that need it. So anytime y'all plan something, just get all you can. Someone's going to use the leftovers.
Yeah, we always are I feel like we're begging a lot for food, or we just want to get the word out that we will always accept leftovers, because in any little amount really does help us out, because we're seeing such an increase. Last year, we served 143,766 meals. And this month already, January, February, March, we're over 44,000 meals. So it's a lot of food. So, but it's...
Canned goods. Do you need canned goods? Do you have like
Oh, yes. Canned goods are always helpful. If we use the big institutional
but
cans,
what about, like,
but the small cans, we sack that up and give it to our friends. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we do, because a lot of them, you know, have a home and have a place to cook. We were so blessed this week. We received a food donation from Lubbock Food Service. They had a big, I guess, where vendors come and they try to sell them their food, and they brought us all their leftovers. It literally filled up our garage. We were just so excited, and it was such wonderful lunch meat, cheese, steak. Even got steaks, and we got pork, and it's just a blessing. And it took us like nearly 3 hours just to put it up. And we were like, where are we going to? I said, I cannot go back to the board and ask for another freezer. I just can't. And we've already we've added 3 freezers in the last year and a half, because we were just so blessed with food. So, oh, yes.
Second, we did some help getting the new stove, and then help with some...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What?
Second Baptist did help getting upgrade on the stove a couple, 3 years ago, and freezers and stuff like that. Does it always come to your board?
And did y'all get an upgraded stove from Second Baptist?
Oh, yes, we did. We got a brand-new stove. It was from...
Second Baptist and Rotary Metropolitan.
Yes, we did. We got brand-new stoves, and we were so thankful to have those, because ours were... When we moved in 2016 to our current location, and it was an MHMR halfway house, and so they left everything for us, but the stoves were really old and they did not warm up very well. And we just recently received a donation of a warmer, one of those stand-up warmers, which has been very helpful. So, any other questions? Well, thank you. Oh, yeah.
So for the panel, besides donations and volunteering, I kind of got the feeling you said walking by the homeless, just speak to them, be kind, know they're there, or the marginalized. Just recognize them as people would make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we can just put things back on ourselves, we need food, right? Food is good news. We need a home, that's good news. All those things are good news. But loneliness, I think, if you have all the stuff, and part of it, I think, is extra challenging living in our culture it is very materialistic. We think a lot of times that stuff is going to be solving everything. And it is a big piece of it. Our homes are precious, not because they're a thing, but because it allows us to be with the people we love. It allows us to celebrate birthdays. It allows us to do the regular rhythms of life. It's really more what it represents. The same thing with food. You're sharing a meal with somebody. And so I think those are the things, because we are blessed in Lubbock, there's definitely never enough. So don't hear me say we have too many resources. We don't. But a lot of people on the streets especially, they know where to get all the resources and things, but it's not the same thing as being treated well all the time or being seen. I think for all of us, if you think to the best times in your life and the worst times in your life, my dad would always tell me this, it usually had to do with the state of your relationships with people. And so I think whenever all of us are feeling seen and heard and loved, and we remember we exist, that already changes how we feel about ourselves, about the day. We could kind of dump resources on each other all day long, and none of these organizations are doing that, but I'm just saying that, right? We can give people coats and all kinds of things, but if we don't see the person who's in need of the coat in the moment, we've really missed everything. And I think of that, we had one time, and I think this person was very well-meaning, this group, and I don't remember what church group it was. This was almost 10 years ago, but I showed up at Open Door, and it was a really cold night, and a church group had got together a whole lot of coats, which is great, but they didn't tell us they were coming. That's not that big of a deal. We could have done something different, but because of that, when we showed up, they were literally throwing all the coats on the ground, and everybody was scrambling to get them. And when I walked up, I heard one of the people in the church say to someone else, I feel scared, we better get out of here. And I'm thinking, you're throwing something on the ground, and I don't think anybody wants to pick up something off the ground like that. But I think sometimes we think, well, this person must be so desperate. As long as we get them something, that's the thing. But again, if we think about it ourselves, how do we want to be treated? How do we want to be cared for? And a lot of it is really simple. I want to be seen as a person. I want to be talked to. And so I think always, even if you're not giving somebody something, just acknowledging their existence is huge. And I think maybe because we live in a materialistic culture, sometimes like if we're going out of the store and someone's asking for food or something and we don't have it to give, I think sometimes maybe we feel bad. Maybe it's something to do with ourselves why we keep walking quickly. But don't be afraid to just look at that person. And even if you're saying, I'm sorry, I don't have that today, how's your day going? Just looking at them in the eyes. I think that's a really big thing. And I said that a lot, but it really is so important because that person may be feeling like they might want to end their life that day. They might be feeling, they're already feeling so separate from everybody else that power of just a human connection. A lot of times you'll find that people just want to chat for a minute and they kind of forget about the thing they were asking about to begin with.
Yeah, and our slogan is like, we try to provide a hand up, not a handout. Because our homeowners, especially like our single moms, and many are very young too, and they've had to learn to be really tough to survive. And they have had to set up some walls and fight for everything, and they're fighting for their kids every day, and they're working all the time, they're tired. So I feel like if Habitat can just, they don't want to be talked down to. They don't want to be treated with disrespect. They want respect because they just want to have what everybody else has, a chance to qualify to pay a mortgage instead of they want to build equity. And our program is called Sweat Equity. But they want to be able to own something. They know, they're smart enough to know it's not good to throw your money away on rent. You want to build security, and they work so hard to make the lives of their children better than theirs were. And then a lot of them have parents that just leech onto them, and they have to take care of them. And it's just so devastating, the stories that they've experienced when they get to our program. So yeah, treating them with respect and just showing them our guiding principles to demonstrate the love of Jesus Christ. And Jesus did that. He went and hung out with the people nobody else wanted to hang out with and lifted them up spiritually and made them feel valued. So just treating people with value and respecting them and knowing also, I love that, title you came up with, Steve, living on the edge, people living on the edge. It could be any of us tomorrow. And I mean, you just take it for granted, but we have people who've just experienced horrible health issues. And they were working, they were about to buy their own house, and bam, my liver goes, I don't even drink. I mean, it's just single men, We have Mario Garcia, we're about to close on his house, and now he's going to get one, and he shouldn't even be alive after his liver issues, but he's fighting for the thing and he's on disability, but he came out and worked that blitz build, and he was doing construction somehow, and it's just one of our favorite people, There's just stories, and it could be our story. So it's just humbled me.
Are marginalized people aware of the resources that are available? Is that an issue, or are they aware of their resources?
Well, I think it's an issue, and we are not doing as good job as we can. So we've got a social worker helping us free now. I mean, we need to do a better job of helping our homeowners with more resources too, because I don't think we are even aware of all the things out there. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for us, a lot of our clients are seniors. They don't know how to use the internet. They don't have access to the internet. And so many things now are, go apply for that service online. They can't do that. A perfect example was the whole electricity deregulation. And bringing in 55 different companies that you could choose from. Our clients did not understand any part of that. They said, no, I've been with LP&L forever. I'm just going to stay there. No, you can't. That's not one of the options. And everything the city put out was go to this website and look at and compare the plans, and they didn't understand any of that. So we actually had TXU Energy put together, not promoting TXU, but just explaining all of it in English and in Spanish, and we sent it with our meals to our clients so they would have something in their hand with a phone number that they could at least call. But again, many of our clients don't have cell phones. Maybe they have pay by the month track phones, and they only have so many minutes. So yes, finding resources, everybody says, call 311, call whatever. It's overwhelming. We have an eligibility specialist that goes to the home when someone's getting on the program and makes any other referrals they may need, maybe a life alert button, maybe a medication aid, maybe resources to repair something at their home, because it is overwhelming. There's a ton of resources out there, but trying to figure out what they are and if you qualify for them is a lot. We have so many clients that their family member will come to that meeting so they can find out what other things are available for their grandmother or their mother or whoever it is. But yeah, I think it's overwhelming. There's a lot out there, but trying to find what is, and knowing what's truly, legitimate resource, and other things that, no, there's some hidden things here, or you have to really pay for that, or whatever it is. So I know particularly for our clients that are homebound, elderly, they may have some dementia. There's a lot of barriers to finding good resources for them, for sure.
I would just add to that you guys have probably heard you can't be what you can't see, which is absolutely true, but also, in Lubbock, we could have, let's say we had all the resources we needed. If people don't know about those resources, you can't pick from something you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we, as a society, hold things against people, right? If you really wanted a better life, you'd go to further education. If you really wanted that, you'd stop doing drugs. If you really wanted that, you'd do this, this, this. A lot of people don't even know that that's available to them, let alone know how to get to those places. And I think that's where, as a group of people, that's something that's really important that we can all do, is be bridge builders and translators. My 3 children are adopted, and I kind of, not like financially support, but emotionally support some of their family members. And I saw some of them today, and I know about some CNA classes that are available and stuff because of people who've reached out to our program, and I just let them know about it. And guess what? She went through this 2-week CNA course, immediately got a job. It's the highest paying job she's ever had. And she feels like she's doing stuff in purpose. She just didn't even know it was there. And so there's so many people that they want to do something better, but they don't know what it is, or like she said, it's not accessible to them. It's not as easy as just go hop on this thing and do this. We kind of started to talk about the starting line, right? So something for any of us might be a challenge from here to here, but for someone else, it might take them 10 more steps to get to the same place. And so having people that, not talking down to them, but coming alongside and saying, do you want that support? And if you do, I'm happy to help you learn what I've learned along the way, right? I'm happy to help you so you don't have to learn the hard way like I did, of how to get to this and this and this. And then you can see people really start to utilize those opportunities. And that's what they're there for. But a lot of times, I think, as organizations, churches, people, we think we have great messages and resources and all those things, which we do. And we say, hey, here, come and get it, right? But whenever you are in a situation of stress, of poverty, whatever kind of poverty it is, you may lack the resources to do that. And so that's why it's important for us to be going to other people and making it very accessible to them, and that we're translating that kind of in their language and the way they understand things to be able to utilize those resources. I hope that makes sense. But I think that's something that everybody can do, even if you don't directly have the resource, if you're not in charge of that, but you can help say, you know what, I heard about Habitat and I heard about this, and let me tell you about that, and let me connect you over here. And a lot of times people don't know.
We send so many of our people to Open Door because we know what they do, and so many of our friends need IDs, they need birth certificates, and so we know that this is one of the things that Open Door does. So it's great for us all to network, to support one another, because ultimately we're there to help the person that needs the help the most. And it's so good to know about what is available in Lubbock. We have a sheet of resources that we hand out to our friends if they want to help with rent or electricity, and that's very helpful for them.
I'm wondering about gangs and drugs and things like that. Is there a pretty effective organizational setup to help people deal with that, or does that involve having to have law enforcement people working on it? Is there, we've got to feed people so they can then think things through and house them for security, but then the outside influences on the kids that might draw them towards inappropriate decisions. Is there a successful program available that you refer to, or you tend to those problems in your purview of the materials you bring?
I think at one time, and I think all the funding's gone, but the schools did a great job of trying to help these children. But I don't know that there's money there for that, because most of the drug and safe free school programs have gone away.
I think it's. The city health department has several drug programs, even helping people learn how to make better meals. And one's called Susan, but they're available through the Lynette Health Department directly.
Yeah, so we don't have a very specific gang outreach program, but we end up working with people who are a part of gangs and have been for a long time in all of our programs. And this is probably maybe a bigger answer than what you wanted, but the same thing with drugs is that there's actually quite a few resources now in Lubbock compared to what it used to be for inpatient rehab, outpatient rehab, different recovery support groups. And so I think we're pretty good on, again, we always need more, but for where we have been, there are a lot of really good opportunities. I think, again, so much of this goes back to relationship. You know, if I don't feel like I'm worth it to get sober because I'm going to just return to the hell I'm living in, there's not a lot of motivation for me to do that. For us, in our programs, one of the neat things is that if somebody needs to go to rehab, we can actually hold their house for up to 90 days if they're in a home with us. And so a lot of times people come in and that's really what they need, but they haven't done it because they're afraid either one, I'm just going to return back to homelessness anyways, so what's the point? I need a coping skill. Or two, I'm going to lose my housing if I do that. And so our grant allows us to get people there and bring them back into their home. And so we've seen a lot of success with that. The other thing I think, again, that we all know is that a lot of people are growing up in these environments that this is just what you do, this is how you cope. And so if that's what you learn from day one, it doesn't even feel strange to you. You know, I don't have a support system, I don't have a family, or the family I do have is already involved in the cartel or a different gang, and so this is literally what I'm indoctrinated in. So some of us probably in this room, I was one of these people, right? I was born on a Friday, I was in church on Sunday. That's probably some of our experiences. The same thing with some of these people that are in a gang environment. They were born into that environment. It's the only world that they've ever known. And so if we don't provide access to other people and other places and situations and environments, there's really not a lot of hope. Somebody's going to just magically wake up one day, right, and want something different. And so I think that's also the importance of the relational value, not just as people as projects, but people as people that I'm truly in relationship with, you know. And still, even that may not completely change, but if people, a lot of the people that we work with can only see maybe through the next couple hours, they're surviving. You know, that's how their brain is operating. It's not, you know, it literally becomes something in the way that your brain changes. And so beginning to help somebody see that they actually have a future, you can see it all day long, right? I can see it all day long. Man, you've got all these opportunities, you can have a future, but until they see it, they're going to continue operating right now, you know, in survival mode. And so allowing people, we work with people all the time who, especially who are coming out of the gang life, who are like, I really never thought I'd see it to 21, so I never made a plan because I lost, my kids' family, hate to keep going back to them, but my kids' family are cartel members. They've already lost several people. My son has already known several people who've been murdered on the streets between 15, 16, 17, 18. So if you don't even think you're making it to 21, then what's the point in investing like that? You know, and that's where some of us can come along and say, man, you are valuable. I'm not here to dog on what you've been through. Our lesson this morning, we mentioned the quote of, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. A lot of times we spend a lot of times cursing the darkness. And sometimes that needs to happen. But it's a lot better to light a candle, right? To pull out some opportunities, right? That's what Habitat, that's what all these groups are doing. Bring out some opportunities and say, hey, here's an opportunity, and I can see you here, right? I see that all these hard things that you've been through, this is not you. This is what you've been through. This is your situation. God calls you good, right? God has made you for life. And so how can I help paint a picture with you of what that might look like? And then how can we support you through that journey to get there?
Yeah, and we're trying to really expand our homeowner program right now. And I'm using MCH, this is just now happening. Tamika Riley's a great caseworker there, and that organization is trying to help organizations like mine who don't have the money for a social worker on staff, because we really need that. And, you know, like I said, our homeowners are so worried about their kids, and here we are building in East Lubbock and North Lubbock and these, you know, socioeconomically disadvantaged communities where there is so much violence. And there are shootings all the time, and they're so scared of their kids being in trouble. And getting them in a house and owning a house is going to help, but they definitely need more resources, and we could do so much with our classes other than just teach financial literacy, because we have that opportunity. but it's just the resources. Like, we don't even have the money right now for an actual coordinator. I had a lady who did 4 jobs for us for very little money because she didn't need the money, and she just retired after 9 years, which I needed her, she needed to do that. She was not young anymore, and she just needed to, but boy, I could replace 1 of the 4 positions because I've got to finish these houses, so I guess everybody's understaffed. So we're trying to use volunteers and organizations to help us to get the education to the homeowners and things they can use for their kids. We find a lot of our single moms, they're empowered and they're working and they get in a house and they're owning a house and they're wonderful, and they still get a bad man to come. It's just a cultural, I don't know, it's something that they hook up with people that are going to do bad things, and they're going to be a bad influence. And so we would love to do more things to help, especially these young women, build their self-esteem and realize they don't need to do that. But we haven't been able to afford the resources to do all the things I think we could do on that end. So it just takes a lot of money. So,
it's a good question. Of course, a little out of my area is Meals on Wheels, but in my former life, I was a director at Women's Protective Service. So that's where I know you from, Steve. I finally figured it out, but that was like 27 years ago. But kind of to your point and to yours, for a lot of these gang members, that is their family. Their father's not in the picture, or their brothers are already in the gang, or whatever, because we used to have children at the shelter when I was at Women's Protective Service that I knew full on were active gang members, and they would sit and visit with me very openly about it, that these are my people, this is my family, I'm going to do whatever I can to stay with them. So it is a bigger picture, but getting them into a safe home, in a safe neighborhood, getting them around people that do have somewhat of a different path, but that's hard. That's really hard to break that mold. Same thing for the women. They have very little self-esteem. There's their father treated their mother that way, so it's very natural for them to get into a relationship that's unhealthy, because that's what they saw and what they knew. So it is quite a cycle, and what you're talking about is breaking that cycle, and that's an age-old question, and it takes a village, for sure. So to wear a different hat, that's been a while ago, but I talked to you all about domestic violence. That's a different meeting. So,
from my perspective in probation, I can guarantee you 75 to 90% of the women on probation for drugs were sexually abused.
yes, they're in an abusive relationship. Yeah.
They mask all the pain.
Yeah.
But they make everything else worse.
Yeah.
Steve, question for you. Sorry. So I know you've mentored a woman for some time, okay? So not only have you helped her financially, but you've helped her emotionally. Is that not true? Janet, say yes. Yes. Yes, as a family, you've mentored her financially and emotionally, and I hear that both are really important. So I hear one-on-one, that's what we can do individually, is take on the mentorship role for one person. And maybe not financially, but just be that person for them, if you're able to do that. Sorry.
No, you're good. There's some really good, these are just kind of some easy things that you can go to. So I think some of you guys in here have read the book, When Helping Hurts. If you haven't, it's really helpful. It kind of walks through navigating, when it's helpful to maybe give financially, when it's helpful to give emotionally, when it's, what is going to be helpful, instead of creating a cycle of dependence that's maybe not helpful. And it's not only not helpful, but a lot of times we end up getting frustrated, and then we don't realize that we're actually playing into some of the unhealthiness. But that book is really good, and there's also a really good book called A Framework for Understanding Poverty, and it really talks through like different cultural aspects. And I think that's one thing in Lubbock. It's every city, right? But there's a lot of different cultures going on just in Lubbock. And there's different subtypes to cultures. So like you had mentioned with working with people coming out of gangs, that's an entire culture on its own. We have racial cultures, the economic cultures. And so if you're going to be working with people, a framework for understanding poverty is really helpful because it talks through cultural values that if you didn't come from that culture, you may not understand it as a value or a way of communication. Maybe you're not seeing it for what it is. And so that's really, really helpful in coming alongside people. But all of those things, right? All of us, God created us to be holistic beings. And it's the same for any person, you know? And so all of us are going to struggle in some of those areas in our lives, and all of us are going to have, areas that we have a lot of, whatever that resource is, support networks and things like that. And I think a lot of times and this is maybe kind of extra challenging, but, for people, if you think about in your own life, whenever your life has really changed, it's probably taken a lot of people who are loving you. It's taken an environment, all those kinds of things. It's probably not from maybe one thing like 1 hour a week. Does that make sense? Those things are helpful, but that's not going to be something that, just completely changes everything all of a sudden. And so I hate to keep harping on that relational value, but it really is everything, right? Because we're always going to go through ups and downs. I heard a really good quote a while back by a man named Johan Hari, and he said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And so a lot of times we're not seeing things for what they are, like Steve mentioned, that a lot of people struggling in addiction, I won't even say a lot of people, all people I know struggling in addiction, it's a coping skill. It's, I don't feel good, I need to feel better, or I need to forget something. It becomes just a way to deal with things. And we all have those coping skills, but that, for whatever reason, was the thing that person had access to. And so, yes, rehab is good. Yes, groups are good. All of those other things are good. But at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't find true human connection that is side by side and where they're receiving and giving like we're all meaning to do, we'll probably still continue finding those other kinds of things.
And all of us that have worked in these fields for a long time also have to be very aware of our boundaries. So I would always caution people, yes, you can help and you can get involved with mentoring or, whatever it is, but you also have to take care of yourself and know the limits. These are people that have lived in this kind of state for a long time, as we've said. This is how they cope. They know how to work systems. It's how they have survived. And that's something to keep in mind so that you don't overextend or end up not helping in the way that you hoped you would. I don't mean to be like, don't do this, but boundaries are important. We have to reiterate that to our volunteers all the time. They're like, oh, well, I gave her my cell phone number. Like, okay, she's going to use it every time she needs anything. Now, you took out her trash once. Now she's going to want you to repaint her house. So, just some people, this is how they navigate through life, and this is how they've managed to get to where they are. So you do, I know you want to take people home. We all want to take people home. We can't do that. So it is important to, yes, you can help, but you do have to have very good boundaries to do that, to do it successfully. Not to negate helping, but I don't like to see people get over invested in something and then they're burned out and they don't want to help anybody anymore because their experience was not good or successful.
Yeah, and we want to do more with the program when they're going through the program and getting their house. That can be up to a whole year or even more, but we try not to make it more. But once we close on the house, we're the mortgage lender. So it's a different relationship, and we have to be careful with that and very respectful. So we can do some things in the neighborhood, but they own this house. It is their house. We helped them get the house, and we service the mortgage, but the bank that you get your house from doesn't call you up, well, you need to make this in your front yard. We want our neighbors to look beautiful, but if they want to fix up an old car and keep it in their driveway, it is their house, so we can gently encourage, but it's hard sometimes to do that.
Yeah, I think to kind of sum that up is it's okay to use your head and your heart. And I think a lot of times if you do have boundaries, people might hear that as, well, you just don't want to help, or God has called us to help. Yes, and I kind of fire back the question, Was there ever a time that Jesus said no to someone asking something? And he actually does. There's a couple times where he's feeding people, and one of the next times they kind of come and ask him for food, and he actually says no. And that's when he says, I'm the bread of life. And did everyone stay and hang out? No. They're all like, what? What's up with this joker? And everybody leaves, right? They wanted the bread. They got used to that. And so I think that's why it is really good to kind of navigate that together. And maybe if you're, when you're getting involved somewhere, to talk to the people that have been doing it for a while and just ask, hey, what's helpful, what's not helpful? For us, we have interns all the time now, connected through Texas Tech. And we do a lot of training with them at the beginning of what the boundaries are. We try to help them understand why. And a lot of times they don't get it at first. And then a few months later they go, now I know why you said that, right? And I'm like, yes, just please trust me. I'm not trying to make it harder for you. I'm actually trying to make it better for you. And so it's good to bring that knowledge into it of how to help in the most helpful way. In saying that, though, when you enter into some really dark spaces with people and hard things, it's going to be hard. It's going to take something from you. But those are also things that God is saying, hey, bring, shine in the light in the darkness. And that's also where I think a lot of times we tap into our own humanity and remember kind of who we are as people and who that person is too.
With Habitat, what percentage defaults, and what's your success rate and what's your default rate?
Well, it's much better than it used to be. I have only foreclosed once since I've been there for 6 years. We have a lady right now, and she's been on the list since I came. So we went ahead and just sent the papers. But she's doing better. Sometimes that's, but I think but they know we will foreclose, so we don't have to foreclose. Because if there's just this pattern, we work with them to redo their mortgage, whatever, if there's a reason. But if they aren't going to appreciate that house, someone else needs that house. So.
Are they allowed, once they own the house, if they have an opportunity to move up, are they allowed to sell that house?
Yes, in Lubbock, this was what our local board had decided. There were a lot of people a while back trying to just get in a Habitat house around the country and flip it. They just were, and that wasn't what the program was intended for. So our board decided to have a silent second, a note B, and that falls off after 5 years. But if they want to sell it before that, it's going to be a little more. But they do have to come to us first, and we have the opportunity to buy the house first back, the first right, and then if not. But sometimes it's good for us because we get cash, and it's good for them. But that does happen. But we do have a lot of people from back when this church was doing the first blitz builds, probably, with John Mallory and all of that, paying off their houses now. And so that's very exciting to see. But most do have the 30-year mortgage and end up paying it off that way.
If I may, I'd like to point out two things about the panelists. Number one, if you notice, not a single one of them came here in a chauffeur-driven limousine. They don't do this for the money. They do this because of their hearts. And the other thing is, they aren't just directors of programs. They are directors of people. It comes through so clearly. They care about the people they work with. And so I thank everybody for coming here tonight, and take it with you. Take what you've learned here and spread the word about what these people do. So again, thank you all very much for coming.